Good morning. It's Rochester today, Monday. I'm Andy Brownell, Newstalk 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM. Feeling the effects of the cold that's going around the neighborhood, as they say. But I'm with Olmsted County Sheriff Kevin Torgerson. Good morning, Kevin.
Morning, Andy. Good to be with you. Cold or not, we're kind of in the same place. My voice might not sound quite as clear as normal because I'm dealing with those sinuses too. But 'tis the season. Hallelujah. Here we go.
It is. You get together indoors. Things are going to happen. Yep. I blame mine. I attended the Vikings game, the night game, Sunday night game.
Yay. Big W for the team. That was
got
awesome.
Together with 70,000 other people going through the skyways and everything else and elevators. And, I'm pretty sure that's where I picked it up.
Yeah, there's a lot of it going around. And, I got the recipient of that, too, about a week ago, too. So, it's what's happening. But I don't mind getting an early season one because then I kind of feel like I'm, and knock on wood, hopefully set for the year. So that's good.
I like your optimism.
I'm always going to try.
Well, I was looking through your monthly newsletter, Sheriff, and you often put this snapshot feature in there, and this time it was on warrants. And your department has been having to deal with an explosion of arrest warrants in the last several years. But I also noticed there's been a bit of improvement.
Yeah, it's, as far as the numbers going on. And this snapshot is, basically looks at the numbers of them and the arrests being made and such. So, coming out of COVID, that was a big deal. A lot of conversation. I think we even talked about it on the show that, they were continuing all these cases, including felony cases. Some, what they call, technically they're called nonviolent felonies. Any person crimes, as we call it, or violent felonies where they're hurting people, they didn't get continued. They were either held in court or in jail or, responsible. They were having court dates and such. But they made a lot of changes coming out of that. And of course, we did. Once they opened court up fully again in 21 into 22, the courts, and we have this council called the Olmsted County Justice Council, which includes everybody from judges to us, the cops on the street, with the attorneys, both county and city, as well as defense and public defenders, and everybody that's involved in the whole justice system here within Olmsted County. And that was a big conversation we had, was coming out of that, when you continue all these cases with the idea that, hey, when we send you a letter and tell you that you have court coming up, you've now got to appear on the case that we continued when during COVID, we're all like, okay, we'll see who shows up. And that was really our response. Okay, that's going to be great because now we're going to have a ton of warrants we're going to have to get because these folks aren't going to show up. And so, we did go through a couple of years of really trying to deal with a lot of warrants coming down and a lot of people finding ways to get them to get to court and do that. So it's turning a little bit, and we like where we're going. And we're actually looking at some restructuring within our office. We have one deputy who is devoted full-time to warrants. Any one of our licensed people can and do look for people on warrants at every opportunity they have. But we have one deputy that deals with extraditions, which is when we arrest somebody from, say, even Wisconsin or Iowa, even though they're 30 miles away. They go through an extradition process, which actually goes from us up to the governor's office, over to, in Minnesota, over to Iowa's governor, and they have to look at the warrant. They say, yep, we want them. It comes back through the system again in reverse, saying, yeah, Olmsted County, you got to hang on to this guy. Iowa wants him, so hang on to him. When we're done with our case, then we notify Iowa again through the same process, saying, you got to come back. So I will come and get him.
A lot of paperwork is what you're telling me.
Pardon me, I had to make a cough.
A lot of paperwork is what you're telling me.
Yeah, oh yeah. There's, it's considered governmental red tape, bureaucracy, but it is for the safety factor in the sense that There are cases, too, where we've arrested people from out of state, and the other state says, yeah, no, we'll leave the warrant active, but we're not going to come and get them. And a lot of times that's in a, that nonviolent phase of things, too, and maybe it got coded a little bit differently, and they didn't realize it was going to be, outside of their state, because when someone does get a warrant, when someone does get a warrant, the judge has the opportunity, and usually the counsel, the court, the attorneys will make recommendations on how far do we want to go to get this one. So we can say Olmsted County only, within our southeast region, statewide, or nationwide. And I think they can even code it within the Midwest, as well as then broaden it out so that if somebody gets picked up in, Delaware or Florida, it's a serious warrant. Are we going to come and get them? And they'll notify us. So Same thing in all the other states. It's a reverse factor on that too. They'll catch one of our guys out in California or Nevada, and we'll get a teletype saying, hey, do you want this guy? We got him in our custody for these charges, and we're going to hold him until we hear from you. And so it's a real good system, and it does have its safeguards so that people are, but not being unduly held for any longer period of time than needed to assure that they are wanted back in that home state or for those home charges.
How does it work when somebody doesn't show up? Because I see it quite often where, failure to appear. They have a hearing set up and they don't show, and then it might be a few days to a week before an arrest warrant gets kicked out. Is there a process where they tell the defense attorney, hey, call your person and tell them to get in here? Or?
They may do that. I've heard that when I've sat up in court, and when I was doing a court security job many years ago, a couple of decades ago now, sitting up there and in those in-custody hearings, and they'll be waiting for somebody. Well, the attorney's there, and the attorney says, yeah, my client's, I can't find him. I don't know where he is. I've called him. He's not showing up. Don't know where he's going to be. And then they'll say, well, judge might say, well, give it another try. We'll see what happens. Let me know. Let my clerks know. And so sometimes it may take a day or two, and then, of course, it is some paperwork. And then we can't do anything until that comes down from the judge. The judge has to then sign it, and then it comes down through the courts to us, and this is the same in every county. The sheriffs are required by statute. It's one of our reasons we exist, is to work at the mercy of the court. And I shouldn't say mercy, at the pleasure of the court, to handle all of their court documents, whether it's criminal or civil. And so when that comes down, they usually come down like batches. They might come down in a batch on a Monday or on a Friday. And then our clerical staff here, our support staff, which we have 3 of them here in Olmsted County, they process all that. And then they have to enter it into the system according to how I described earlier, how they can be picked up, to which level. And then we go on from there. And then it goes out in the system, and then boom, it's a warrant, and now it's on our roll, on our list, and you can look that up.
Shows up on the computers and everything else. Yep. Now, I mentioned it's an improvement. It's gone from, several thousand outstanding warrants down to maybe a couple thousand, but it's still an incredibly high number.
Yeah, when I first became sheriff, and we're talking now almost a little over 10 years ago now, we were looking at, I can't remember exactly the numbers, but it was 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, something like that. It was a lot. And that was one of my first goals was, okay, this is one of the things we want to do. We want to get rid of some of this stuff. And so as an aspect of what we did during COVID, one of the other things that happened simultaneously with COVID was, and this is, not going to please some people out there listening, but doesn't necessarily please me either. But there are some people we're not going to ever find, unfortunately.
They're probably out of the country, some of them.
Yeah, who knows? They may have died. We don't know where they're at, and we're not going to find them. So, again, with those nonviolent types of warrants, whether they're misdemeanors, certainly petty misdemeanors, which is like parking tickets and stuff like that. Parking tickets, parking warrants, whatever.
Sure.
Those now get reviewed, I believe, every 5 and 7 years. So if one is on our roll and it's 7 years out, and it then gets reviewed automatically through the city attorney, the county attorney's office, and then they petition the court and say, hey, judge, these warrants are here. We haven't found this person in 7 years, and it's a theft case for, a shoplifting $15 item, whatever. We're just let's just quash. They call that quashing.
Sure.
A warrant, and they'll quash them, and then that sends it back to us, and then we have to remove it from the system. And so that happened simultaneously. Up until then, these warrants were just stacking up, and we've got warrants that are been on, murder warrants that are, one is for a John Doe, and we've got a couple other ones that are out there on some pretty serious cases that they will never leave that role. And, maybe hopefully through DNA analysis or some other, magical thing that happens, sometimes miracles that happen, we're able to find these people and hold them accountable. But these other lower level stuff, it just makes sense. It just jams up our system, and unfortunately we can't process all of them, unfortunately.
It's not like you're going to go to Arizona to go fetch a person who is out on a misdemeanor shoplifting.
Right, and we're not going to. And that warrant's not going to even show up if the cop in Arizona stops somebody on a traffic stop. They're not even going to see that warrant because, again, based on that qualification categorizing that they do when the county attorney or city attorney says, okay, they didn't show up, let's get a warrant. They petition for a warrant, or the judge says right there on that day on the bench, are going to do this warrant, and then that's one of the questions they do is, how far do you want to have the sheriff or the law enforcement to go get them, and then they'll set that. It's pretty routine. It really isn't anything that takes a lot of work. It's just a matter of, not even barely a minute, 2 minutes tops of court time to track that down and to make that decision. So, but the numbers have gone down. Our arrests are still going. We're still looking at from the newsletter. We're arresting 1,850 of them in 22. A lot of that stuff too is people that are actually turning themselves in. We still get to call that an arrest because it is. And then in 23 we had 1,682 that were turned in. So around 150 less in 23, and then we're still counting, but we're at 1,436 as of the printing in the newsletter. So we'll be right into that, probably close to that 1,600 again number by the end of the year. So maybe that's where we're going to kind of plateau here is around 1,600 warrants arrested, and that's all warrants, top to bottom.
Okay.
On an annual basis, so that keeps us busy for sure. And like I said, we have one deputy right now that is dedicated full time to warrants. We've tried to find different ways to do it. We've looked at adding FTEs, so staff numbers, which of course counts to the levy, and the board has to try to decide if they want to give me the money to add a new staff person. But we're going through a kind of routinely in our office, something we've tried to do pretty regular here is look at, okay, can we restructure? Can we repurpose some people? Is there something we can do differently? And we're looking at whether it's community engagement, whether it's warrants, whether it's a narcotics officer, because all these things we have to do and we want to do, but how can we repurpose some people if we can? If not, we'll just go back to the county board every 6 months and say, hey, we need staff. And at some point, hopefully they grant us what we need. But we definitely need another warrant person that can do a lot of this stuff.
All right. We do need to take a break. We'll be back in a moment with Olmsted County Sheriff Kevin Torgerson. It's Rochester Today, News Talk 1340, KROC AM, and 96.9. Welcome back. Rochester Today on News Talk 1340, KROC AM, 96.9 FM. It's our Monday morning meeting with the Sheriff, Olmsted County Sheriff Kevin Torgerson, and I noticed it was last month you had another one of your regular recognition events.
Yeah, special night again. We do it twice a year. Usually the first part of April, first part of October, to give our folks. So basically every 6 months, to recognize all of our new staff that we bring on. We're a large enough agency where we always got a group of new hires, and we brought on some new people, and then we also hand out awards to both our people internally as well as sometimes even some civilians. And we had some pretty unique and amazing life-saving awards that we handed out this time around. And one of them, just by example, so much goes on behind the scenes. We've got 130 to 140 people now in our detention center on a daily basis. The numbers have gone up from as low as around about 60 or 62, I think, when we were at our low point during COVID because of, the concerns we had there. And again, part of our earlier conversation, not only were we pushing off some of the cases for the courts because they couldn't hear all of them, but they also were, then with that, there were not that many people being assigned to in custody. So the numbers went down to as low as 62, and we have a capacity in the jail detention center here of around 170, 175, depending on how people are classified. And when they get classified, it's mostly on their assaultive behavior, on how dangerous they are, both outside in the community as well as inside our facility, because they don't get along inside either. And we have to take care of our staff, too. And we, unfortunately, you don't see it in the news very often, very seldom. But unfortunately, we do have staff that get assaulted and, by some of these people that are not only criminal in nature, but they've got some mental health stuff, and it's really difficult. But we had a case, a life-saving award that, the reaction of this one, the female detention deputy, was just phenomenal. There had been a lady who was in custody in the female unit, and our staff was just coming in to relieve the other deputy that was there, and heard some kind of a noise. I can't remember exactly now off the top of my head without looking at the notes what the noise was, and this staff who was coming in to relieve the deputy who was already in the unit and had been taking care of all these ladies that were in custody. And she went over to where she thought she heard this noise. I think it was a thump or a bump or something happened. And this lady that was in custody was hanging. And
oh my gosh.
They got the door open. She went in. She lifted her up. She cut this lady down and, saved her life. And granted, the lady was in a pretty difficult place in her life, obviously at that point, but clearly is no longer in custody now and has dealt with those issues. And I hope on the outside now she's doing better. And, that's what our staff, they do that every single day. People don't know about it. We don't report it in the news because it's confidential information. We can't identify those things to people out in the community. So it's something that goes on pretty regular. And our detention staff, God bless them, they're just amazing people who want to be in that situation, take care of people. One of the things I tell them all the time, I tell this to our LEC staff too, but I tell our ADC staff that they are in such a unique position where they can really change people's lives by just treating them as humans, not treating them because of their charge or their case or whatever it is, but just being a listening ear sometimes, giving them some advice. They can't give legal advice, even though they ask them all the time.
But life advice.
But life advice and family advice, they're just a listening ear, and they help out so much to people. And we do get thank you letters from former detainees or, detention deputies will talk about it. I've even been confronted by it too. I shouldn't say confronted, but approached in the community by people who say, hey, I hate to say this, but I was inside and man, your staff really, really took care of me. And I needed that at that time. And they were honest with me about my challenges and whatever. And so, pretty wonderful people we have in our staff, in our facility that is unseen, unheard, and people drive by the building here at the government center all day long, all year long, and have absolutely no idea what's going on inside the facility. So kudos to our detention staff because they just do amazing work.
Well, that's one heck of a story. I imagine people are hitting rock bottom sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
When they go and get processed into that facility.
Yeah, and this was a lady, too, if I remember right. She was challenged because she was in custody, but I don't believe there was any, in essence, red flags saying that she had to be on any kind of special watch. This was just out of nowhere. And, man, our staff heard that and took action. And, we have medical staff inside the facility, too, and saved another life. And,
for the grace of God, right there.
Yeah, you just hope that whatever that noise was or whatever caught her attention to be in there and be in there in that moment because the other staff was already in there. For her to just have been in there in that one moment, you just got to think there's some kind of divine intervention sometimes because those things don't happen all the time either. So we're just happy that it happened when it did.
I'm glad you're able to take that time out and recognize people who do that kind of work.
Need it. It's great. She's a fantastic employee. Been here for a number of years, and I'm sure she'll stick around for the remainder of her career because she's very dedicated to what she does.
Awesome. We have to take a break for news already. We're with the sheriff this morning, Olmsted County Sheriff Kevin Torgerson on Rochester Today. Back in just a moment on News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96
News app.
Good morning and welcome back to Rochester Today. It's Monday. I'm Andy Brownell with Olmsted County Sheriff Kevin Torgerson on News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM. And Kevin, we were talking earlier in the program about the warrants.
Yeah.
And part of that was there's a ton of warrants involving domestic violence related issues. And last month was Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I think.
Right. Yep. Every October. Yeah.
Did your office do you do something different to, I don't know, raise awareness or address the month?
Yeah, we do. We do some, we did a couple things. We normally we'll do what we can social media wise, and it's really about awareness. That's what it's called, Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And, again, just trying to push people to the idea that you don't have to live like that. You don't have to live in those situations where you're afraid for yourself or your kids in any way, shape, or form, whether it's male or female. We've arrested, a lot of times people think of it, males are the domestic violence suspects or perpetrators, but we've had females, too, that we've arrested over the years. And, domestic violence is also, in a sense, assaults and child maltreatment and mistreatment and stuff too. So any kind of that. So we do what we can social media wise and again, join in with everyone about awareness of those things. And then the other thing we do is, we spent a couple of days when we're talking about warrants, just going after, domestic violence warrants. So people have been charged, have not reported to court when they were supposed to, and our warrant guy, as I talked about earlier, will join with some of our other civil staff and some of our other court security and patrol people. Again, any law enforcement officer is able to arrest people on warrants, and we did a couple of kind of stings or saturations and just looked at the warrants that we have on them and just targeted those people and try to get them in custody, get them to answer for the things that they've done. And, we try to do that as much as we can with all of those warrants that have something where there is person crime. It's assaultive in nature. But this time they really focused, I think, pretty much part of a week or most of a week during the last month in that way. And, they'll continue doing that. We don't announce that when we're going to come out and do those things.
No, that's probably not a good idea.
We have done that too, where we said, hey, we're gonna have a warrant crackdown, and sheriff's office around the state and the country do that every now and again, and it generates a lot of people to go to our website and look and go, okay, do I have a warrant? And then we get a lot of turn-ins then too, walk-ins and say, hey, I saw my name on there, I got a warrant, I want to clear this up. So crackdowns can be good on both ends. We may be able to focus some energy on and donate some overtime to having deputies working these things, but then it also helps on the other end. But so domestic violence, there's two pretty high-profile cases that are going on right now that ultimately end in murder. And you got the Natalie case out of Winona, and the trial's going on the last few weeks, and I think it should be nearing an end. I can't remember. It's getting close here. And maybe I don't even know. Maybe already there's been an announcement. I haven't been paying attention. Been real busy. But I know that case been going on. That stems from domestic violence and a series of domestic issues, and some of what I know from the front end of that, and I think it's been announced in some of the testimony that other people had tried to get her to leave the guy and move on, and so on and so forth. But it's really hard for domestic violence victims in some cases to do that.
Well, that's a part of this that deserves a little mention and awareness of, that a lot of people, quite glibly say, well, why don't you just leave that guy or leave that gal or whatever? And it's not easy. It's, there's usually a long-term relationship involved. Sometimes there's children involved. Sometimes there's financial dependence on this person who is mistreating you.
And these perpetrators hold all that over their head. We've had that from foreign nationals. They talk about undocumented people that are living here, and they're abusing the kids as well as the spouses, and then they threaten them to the point that if I get arrested, I might get deported, and then what are you going to be? And that person, the perpetrator, is the one that's actually does have a job and making money and whatever, and so they stick in the game in that sense, and it's hard. It's so hard. No one should ever, shame a victim of domestic violence because they didn't leave. It's way deeper than that, and that's what we try to do from the law enforcement angle. When we get a domestic situation, we're going to go in and try to deal with the situation at hand, but we're also going to try to counsel as much as we can and steer them to some resources to maybe help them get a way to break free. But boy, when there's children involved, like you say, and financial dependency involved, it gets really, really tough. So,
and that doesn't even count the emotional ties too. This is a person that at some point probably was a caring person. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I've known some women personally who have gone through this horrible ordeal and had to rebuild their lives, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody. My gosh.
Yeah. No, it's horrible. I've seen, so much of that over the years. As a first-time officer, being called in and going into those cases, and I've been outside as I'm just about ready to go up the front steps or the back steps or go in the door, and I can hear, there's some madness going on and people crying and kids crying and doors slamming and just horrible things happening, and I don't know what I'm walking into. But man, it can be really, really wicked. So I'm glad you brought this up. Domestic violence awareness is again, it's like we say in a lot of different situations. It's too bad we only get one day or 1 week or a month to talk about it. We really should be at the forefront of our minds all the time, and always trying to find ways to get people help when they need it. And the other factor involved with all of this is, like everything, mental health and drug or alcohol abuse. It's just everything is so intertwined with so much of that stuff that it makes it difficult, but it's something we're willing to try to help and fight the challenge as much as we can.
It's also a especially dangerous situation for law officers. A good friend of mine had a multi-decade career in law enforcement, and he'll tell you that the only time he was ever injured on the job was responding to a domestic.
Yeah.
And thankfully, he wasn't seriously injured, but it left him out of work for a few weeks.
Yeah. It is, and we talk about that. We're very frank about it with our new people, and I know our guys and gals are very much aware of that kind of threat or danger when they're taking these calls out there, and it's part of why we've added a few FTEs over the last few years. I mean, clearly since a little before COVID and after COVID, and then George Floyd and Memphis and all these other places that have had these difficult situations where officers involved either shootings or deaths and things, and people have taken a really difficult stance towards law enforcement in the sense that, throwing that blanket of shame and fear and angst against all of us made it difficult, and still will. And so now, pretty much any of these calls, it's not just, and I used to go in one deputy, just me, and maybe my backup was coming and whatever, but now we don't mess around. It's 2 and 3 deputies at a time. They may not all enter the home, but they're there and they're close by, and we just can't take those challenges anymore because we just never know how these things are going to turn around.
I'm glad you brought that up because I see that on social media sometimes. How come you have all those squad cars over here for this one thing and it being nothing? The point is, you don't know it's nothing at that point.
Yeah, you just don't know. We don't know, and we don't know until we know. And then even sometimes when we know, we get surprised. And that happens all over the country, too, and all over the world. It's not just unique to the United States. But, we've got to take every caution and precaution we can, and we'll continue doing that. And, at times it seems like it might be a little bit of overkill, but it's all for not only the safety of our people, but the safety of the others involved, the peripheral people, the bystanders even in cases, as well as the people that might be involved in the inner circle of some kind of a crisis situation, critical incident, or in this case maybe a domestic situation. It may look like we're kind of overwhelming the situation, but yet it's for the safety of everybody, including ourselves.
And one last thing before we have to take a break. I know, just as part of the awareness, I know we're a month late because it was October, but there's frustration from the person watching this happen to a loved one or friend, whatever it may be, and sometimes there's that, that knee-jerk response to give up on them.
Yeah.
Oh, they're choosing this life,
Right.
I guess I think the message I would send, don't give up on them. Be there when it comes time for them to reach out.
Yeah, always be there. Do whatever you can to help someone. They need to keep hearing the message. Don't ever give up. And that's the same in all these situations, whether it's drug, alcohol addiction, whatever it is, mental health crisis situations. You just got to continue. And it's hard work. I get it. It really pulls on your heartstrings, and you can't concentrate at work because you're worried about somebody or, wherever you are, and, there's depression issues and things that are involved. And golly, we just got to continue fighting the fight and help everybody as much as we possibly can. And that's everybody. The other thing too, Andy, some people on the other side of that say, I don't want to get involved. It's not my place. And it's not, and that's their problem, and they should figure that out themselves. Yeah, I get it. But on the other end of it, we're all affected by it in one way or the other, whether it's us adding more deputies because we have to, and now it's out of your tax dollars.
Or additional jail space.
Or jail space. I mean, we all pay in the long run. So, that see something, say something seems kind of like a cheap coin slogan, but it really means a lot. We all have a responsibility regardless. If you see something that isn't quite right, regardless of what it is, you really should say something. Don't just drive by or continue walking if somebody might need a little bit of help. It's all on our responsibility as citizens and human beings to help out wherever we can.
All right, Kevin, we'll take a quick break. Back in just a moment with a little bit more time with the sheriff, Olmsted County Sheriff Kevin Torgerson on Newstalk 1340 KROC AM and 96. It's Rochester Today. Welcome back. I'm Andy Brownell, Newstalk 1340 KROC AM 96.9 FM. We have a few more minutes left with Olmsted County Sheriff Kevin Torgerson. And during the break, Sheriff, you mentioned you wanted one last message concerning domestic violence before we moved on.
I mentioned, it's our responsibility to get involved and see something, say something. But the other thing that I should say, cautionary-wise, please don't put yourself in harm's way. Whatever it is, please, please, please don't put yourself in harm's way in a situation like that. 99.9% of the people have a, what do you call it? Have a cell phone or some kind of a handheld computer. So drive past it, do whatever, pull over, be safe if you're in a vehicle, and make that phone call to 911. And that system has saved a lot of lives over the years. And, get that so law enforcement comes in. But please don't put yourself in harm's way in any situation like that. But it is our responsibility as human beings to help each other out, regardless.
With the little time that we have left, I wanted to check with you on what's happening with the law enforcement memorial at Soldiers Field Memorial Park. I know a lot happened in the last few weeks or so to, get it so people can enjoy it, right?
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, with the help of Sergeant's Nursery, Jay Meyer, and a lot of other nurseries, landscaping companies in the area. We had a service day back in September or actually October, that dressed up the whole place. The only problem is it's beautiful down there. Planted a lot of nice new plants, and 3 trees we planted. There's going to be another tree or 2 that get put in next spring because it just wasn't the right time yet to put them in. And the landscaping is about 90% done at this point. Pathways are in. The only problem was we were also hopeful that we were going to be able to get lighting done so that we could take the fence down and let people in, but we can't. It's a liability issue. If people fall, it's so dark down there. I was down there last night. We dressed it up again for the holidays. We've been putting the names of the officers, a little memorial card, a blue ribbon, and an American flag on the fence to decorate the fence a little bit. And we have a blue light that is a solar light that lights up along the fence. And that's been in place now. We've been doing that, ever since the fence went up. So we did a little dressing up of it last night. But if you haven't been by there, please drive by. Sorry, unfortunately, you can't go in, especially because it's nighttime. It's too dark in there for people to stumble around. But we have a meeting. We had a meeting last week. And making plans for what we need to do left. And obviously one is lighting, benches for people to sit and enjoy this space, and all that we hope will be able to be done throughout maybe a light winter again, if not early spring.
That might be too much to ask for.
Yeah, I know. Mother Nature does what she wants. And then our goal is to, by the end of the year, by next year, May of 2025, the fence can come down as soon as we get the lighting in and it's all working. And hopefully by the Law Enforcement Memorial Day is May 15th every year. So sometime around there, probably a few days after May 15th next year, the fence will be down and we can actually hold a memorial program there and a dedication there and really start letting people experience the new part of Soldiers Field Memorial Park. So we're close. We're so close, but still a lot of work yet to do.
Patience. But you're still looking for donations as well, right?
Thank you. I wanted to finish with that. Yes, we still need donations. We're probably looking at around 140 to 150,000 yet to do to finish all this stuff. We have money, but we need more to finish this thing off. So if there are folks that looking at end of the year or businesses looking at the end of the year places to put some money for their tax benefits and deductions, we'll take it. You can look at our website, lawenforcementmemorial.org. Very easy, lawenforcementmemorial.org. And there's right on the front page up in the upper right corner is a donate button, or you can contact us through that too, or contact me. And we'll get you in the right place if you want to make a donation. We've had so many generous sponsors and in-kind donors through construction. We're just forever indebted. But this is going to be a beautiful space once it gets in full bloom next April and May when the plants start coming up. I can't wait. It's going to be so wonderful down there.
It's awesome to see it become a reality after all this
time
that it's been talked about and planned.
Yeah.
Well, Sheriff, I always appreciate your time and look forward to the next time we can get together and talk about things happening at the Olmsted County Sheriff's Office.
You bet. Thanks, Andy. Hope your cold gets better.
Yeah, so do I. Mine's
already on the upswing, so good luck and take care. Happy Thanksgiving, too.
Thanks, Kevin. You as well.
All right.
Olmsted County Sheriff Kevin Torgerson of Rochester today. It's News Talk 1340 KROC AM and 96.